Hi, very good morning to you. It's Dean from maverickstar Observatory. Wanted to go over just a few of the basics. For people that have just recently subscribed to the channel asking questions, it's perfectly fine to ask the questions. And if I get the time, I don't mind answering them. Someone says what is causing, the interglacial and glacial periods. And this information, this actual video that we're going to watch shortly, comes from NASA. So it's widely accepted that the Milankovitch cycle causes our Earth to go into slightly cooler periods that last 100,000 years, and then we come out of them like we have recently over the last 12 to 15,000 years. And it enables us to thrive, because when we come out of a glacial period, a lot more of our planet opens up to agriculture. And in that case, it's a case of Darwinism, when he talks about the eco chains being supported, and if you've got a large eco chain, you can support a larger amount of that particular species in that region. And it's no different from human beings. When we come out of a glacial period, our lands open up further, and we are able to settle in places where we never before. Let's not get above ourselves here. Let's just look at some of the places recently in the last 300 years where we've settled. America, Canada, Australia, and a lot of other northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere continents, because simply they didn't support life as they do today when we was in that glacial period. So what causes these interglacial periods is the Milankovitch cycle. Let me just show you what that is, but I'll briefly explain. When we're at an interglacial period, a warm period, our Earth's orbiting on an almost perfect circular motion. When we go into an interglacial period, the orbital pattern changes and we go into an elliptical orbit, and that is what causes these 100,000 year cycles that we're going to have a look at now. So I'll just quickly run the video so you get an idea of what the Milankovitch cycle is. You can see how the orbit changes from a very spherical one to an elliptical, and that is what makes that 100,000 year cycle. And as you can see on the bottom of the screen, actually shows you that NASA have produced this model for us so that we can have a look at it. So here we are looking at what is the outcome of the Milankovitch cycle, and you can see it's repeated 4 or 5 times here over the last 450,000 years. I've got a couple of questions to ask. Yourselves that our governments around the world are now in the process of raising hundreds of billions of pounds to fight climate change, and in particular CO2 related global warming. Now you can see yourselves that CO2 spikes every 100,000 years here, but where we are right now, it has gone up to 400 parts per million. The reason why I think we were able to see it go up 400 parts per million at this point in time is because we are here in this time slot. And I suggested, what we should have done, or at least the government should do, is invest more money, taking more core samples, looking at the actual highest point of the temperature chart when we're in an interglacial period, so that we can see if we've missed something, because I believe we have. I believe we've definitely missed the spike. And what we're looking for is a 30-year time period in 100,000 years. So it's a very, very small sliver of the ice core sample that shows us that the CO2 at these points in time did indeed go up to the 400 parts per million that we're seeing it at right now. The other thing I want to say is that we're in a lot of talk about runaway catastrophes based on the fact that we're not doing enough to reduce our input to the CO2. Well, I just want to say, if that was the case, why didn't it run away at any other point in our history that we're looking at here? We can see when we go into interglacial periods that the CO2 rises, and when we're in the glacial period, the CO2 drops. So I think that they've purposely not done more of a thorough job of searching for that needle in the haystack, almost that 30-year period in 100,000 years where it shows the CO2 has risen. if we had private backers, you know, energy companies, petroleum companies, I'm sure that they would like to get the information out if it's there. And I'm sure that the money that it costs to do these core samples could easily reflect in further profits for them. I mean, I am not, you know, a petroleum hater. You know, at the moment we rely on petroleum and other products from crude oil. You know, a lot of the pharmaceutical industry, you know, run off crude oil products, as well as, you know, the petroleum industries. But at the end of the day, you know, we are suffering more than what we should do at this point in time, because not only are we at a point in time, as I mentioned the other day in the video, where we're at you know, a high level of technological advancement, and therefore, you know, it's reducing the jobs. But, you know, we've also got that added problem where we're not curbing the population either. So, you know, it's like I can see what's going on here. It's obviously they're thinking short term and they're lining the pockets. But what I'm saying is where's the money that's being spent on the future preparation for the future generations when this earth does, you know, start to pass that thermocline? And we don't know when that'll be. We know that we're already 6 to 8,000 years going back into another glacial period where this earth cools down rapidly. Remember what I said at the beginning of the video, this reduces the productive land for us to grow food in. And it's very important, as you can imagine, when you've got 8 billion people on here, is that they're not, I can't understand why they seem to be anti-human in their approaches to what they're doing. First of all, we know that 99.8% of the carbon that is in our atmosphere is caused through natural causes that, you know, is emitted from the oceans and the land. We put less than 2% in. It's a tiny amount. So even if we was net zero tomorrow, you know, and there was a real problem with CO2 causing global warming, we could not contain it with just cutting out using fossil fuels. And as we have seen to this point in time, the billions of pounds that has been spent already on wind turbines, solar panels, globally, it is not sustainable. You know, they don't work, wind turbines, in winter because there's ice on the blades. If they have to heat the blades up, then they're not working as efficient as what they should do. The materials are harmful to the environment. You know, they're not talking about the fact that they want to push us all into electric cars, but Tesla now is having to reconsider the prices of his cars based on the actual materials, because more car manufacturers now are coming into the industry of electric vehicles, and as a result of that, you know the few places where we find cobalt and lithium and places like that, you know, it's drove the prices up. And he's really going to run into some trouble in the not too distant future. And in any case, his factory, as you're probably already aware, has been shut down in China because of COVID. And all I can say to that is, serves you right for taking the jobs out of America. Those people could have built that car in America, but you know what? It's all about these greedy fuckers. It's about the profit and maximising the profit. And that's why we're seeing so much trouble in this world today, because, you know, if nobody is going to govern these people, no one is going to police these people in power, then you're going to have more people like Nancy Pelosi with billions of pounds in her bank account and making silicon deals with companies in Taiwan so that her and her husband can put more millions in the bank. You know, what about building and investing in companies in America or in Europe or in the UK or elsewhere? You know, so that, you know, you can put jobs on the table and not export the jobs. It's what they're doing is not benefiting any one of us. You know that, guys. We have been left on the side, and they know they can get away with doing a lot worse. And that's why our energies bills now have doubled. They're laughing at us, clearly, and they're doing it on the back and the pretext of a load of lies. And it's really saddening that we're living in a world at a current time where we have got some fantastic abilities, but they're just being squandered because of greed. I just sometimes get really confused with it. Another question someone asked was relating to, the 7 and 1 week months left that we've got before we reach the 40 degree mark. So let's just go and have a quick look at that before we move on from here. But I hope it's answered a few questions for people with regards to what creates an interglacial and a glacial period, and what is responsible for it with regards to the Milankovitch cycle, which is absolutely accepted by mainstream science and mainstream organisations such as NASA and the European Space Agency. So let's have a look at the Google Maps. So as you can see from the video that you're watching on the screen, there's a strange anomaly when a magnet comes in close proximity to the compass, and what you'll see is it jumps. I'm just showing you the power supply that I'm using to run this experiment there. What you'll see is it jumps when it gets to 40 degrees, and it does a complete flip, or near enough, and that is the theory of the 40 degrees. Now most of you know we're around about 8 months or thereabouts away from that 40 degree mark, and it is theoretically anticipated that when we get to the 40 degree mark we should start to see it speeding up. We're around about 41 miles or thereabouts from that, and if you divide that by the average monthly migration of 5.2 miles, you get around about 8 months left. So that isn't very long in terms of time, as you know now. We've been talking about this for a long time. We're finally getting there now, and we'll see what happens. But the reason why I put this on the table is because nobody else has showed this anomaly, what happens when you put a magnet close to a compass and you rotate the magnet. Now some people have argued that it's not a true representation of the Earth because it's an external force acting on a compass. But could you imagine if I put that magnet and left it rotating inside a model of an Earth, and then brought the compass up to that model of the Earth? It would act no different, and therefore that external source would therefore be an internal source, and it would be an even closer representation of what is taking place perhaps on our planet. So we're very close to this being proven right or wrong, and it doesn't bother me either way. I'm quite happy with the fact that I discovered this anomaly that takes place and have demonstrated it to you guys, because they say that our Earth's magnetic intensity is, unlike a lot of other people on YouTube say, is not a real bar magnet. Our Earth is very close to a real bar magnet, and therefore why shouldn't it show what the reaction that we're getting here, if that is the case? Thing is that we don't know, and this theory can't be proven wrong by anybody at all, and some people have tried, but it can't be proven wrong, because to prove the theory wrong you would need to know how the magneto in our core generates the magnetosphere and also the dipoles. And because we have failed up until this point in time to figure that out, no one can prove it wrong. The only thing that will prove this wrong is just time. And like I say, either way, I'm happy that I managed to put it on the table for you guys to see, because if we do get to the 40 degree mark and we start to see a rapid acceleration, I just want to bring to your attention that we've already had an acceleration, and it wasn't very fast. It happened in the 90s and continued at a certain pace until the last 12 months, where we've noticed only a very small increase in speed in migration over this time over distance. So it's covering more distance in shorter spaces of time now, and it's on average about 5.2 miles. But what I want to show you in this experiment is watch what happens when it gets even closer to 40 degrees. It starts to speed up, doesn't it? So I think it's a good theoretical experiment of something that could possibly happen in less than a year now. And if it does, and anything to go on with the climate since the 90s to this present day, where there was a slight acceleration, then we know that there will be, during that faster acceleration, more climatic problems that we're going to face, for sure. Not only that, is that when that pole starts to flip and move quicker, and some scientists have proved that that is exactly the nature in which poles do reverse. They move a little bit and then go a lot quicker, and then they start to slow down to their original fixing points again. And at that point, the pole has migrated 180 degrees. So, there's a lot of evidence that supports this. It's a good experiment, I think, that shows you what could possibly be installed. But we also know that if this is the case, and this does happen, we can expect dramatic changes to our climate and our Earth, and we don't know how long these will last. Because that was another question that was asked to me. When it does go past the 40-degree mark, if it accelerates, how long will it take before it calms back down? I don't know, is the answer to that question. Because for the last 90 years, it's been very slow in its migration, faster than what it was prior to the previous 90 years. But for the last 30 years, it's been slightly moving quicker, but the effects on the climate have been more dramatic. And there's been no money invested in this either, other than what you've invested in it. Really, there's been not real much information given the public on this, and I think it's really important, because we could be facing some major catastrophic events in a very short space of time, and that is very feasible, as you could see in this experiment. It's the world we're living in again, guys. We've got a lot of problems that are not getting addressed, and we've got a lot of problems that are getting addressed with a lot of funding, but it's for the wrong reasons. It's supporting the wrong science. We're going to be in a lot of trouble, because you know what, even to this point in time, 98% of the people on this earth don't know about the magnetic pole reversing. They don't know about the returning to a glacial period. They don't know about the grand solar minimum. There is no one out there informing these people at this present time, and that is dangerous, because people will go about their business as normal. If they're not affected right now financially, they're certainly going to be affected climatically in the not too distant future, because these problems are stacking up, and they're not imaginary problems. The large organisations know we're going for a magnetic reversal. The large organisations know about the Milankovitch cycle and the interglacial and glacial periods. They know about the grand solar minimum, but they're not coming out and telling people. I know what you think. A lot of you think that's because they can't save us all, and they want to ensure continuity of their own governments. I just had a thought, actually. Somebody recently put an effort into blowing the Georgia Guidestones up. Yet where is the effort to stop these people that are causing misery for most of us here on this planet? Guys, there's a link down there if you want to help support what we do at the observatory. I really hope that you're like me and you want to help others. And there's a lot of people in times of hardship at the moment. They genuinely can't, but I think you'll agree with me. There is, when 8,000 people watch this video later on, there is more than a couple that could have but chose not to. Don't add to the growing problem You know, let's try and get more awareness out. The way we do that is working together. I hope you believe that, and help support what we're doing here. So we're not just talking about these things, we're doing the experiments. We've got the Trimag system, we've got magnetometers in other countries, we've got one going out to Colombia next week, and you know, we're measuring the radiation that is inbound through cosmic rays interacting with our upper atmosphere. You know, we've made a great effort here at the observatory. You know, it'd just be a shame if it suffered, you know, poor funding, because we all saw what happened to that volcanic monitoring station when it was unmanned and ill funded. When the volcano erupted, there was no one there to warn the people of it, and you know, many people lost their lives. That will be no difference in this case. It's not about trying to frighten people into supporting us. You know, I'm trying to give you all the information to make, you know, educated decisions on whether you want to or not. I hope I'm doing that successfully. So the link is there. I'll say what I usually do. You know, you take care of your loved ones. I'll say what I usually do. Bye for now.